Hello, welcome to Making Moves, where each week myself, Ross Hastings, and Kieran Antil discuss a company who's repositioning in their market somewhere in the world that week. Always picked from a couple of options provided by our team with very short notice, always unscripted, always unedited, and always, therefore, supported necessarily by some sort of liquid stimulation for the brain. So what are you stimulating with this week, Kieran?
I have gone for the renaissance of water,
Uh-huh.
the taken in by the depiction of, I don't know, where are we going? Leonardo, maybe. Anyhow, fancy water.
Does fizz give you more energy?
I have no idea.
I am. We're filming this in the AM, just. But that doesn't stop you from drinking hoppers, right? Especially if it's a fruit variant.
Oh, a mango one.
I think hoppers say that they're not non-alcoholic beer; they are hopper, something like that says in the book. So it's not actually a beer replacement in the morning. And of course, it does come mindfully crafted with adaptogens and nootropics. So
if it was a beer replacement in the morning, that's also a positive, I guess.
I guess so. But it's right on topic because today we're going to be talking about Tropicana, who have repositioned, and we'll talk about our opinion on whether this is actually a repositioning and what we mean by that. But around this idea of give life some juice, and making big noise about redefining categories and transforming the way that juice is seen, and leaning into this word juice as a cultural synonym for kind of energy and boost and all kinds of stuff. So lots for us to discuss. And I think a kind of interesting macro meta conversation around kind of ads versus repositioning, which we'll get into. But why don't you kick us off with your initial observations?
All right. Well, probably the shiniest thing in the sort of press release is sort of the new film. Worth a look. It's funny. It's sort of the sloth in the tropical environment. So it lets me start off the things I like. I mean, they're definitely kind of leaning into Tropicana, the tropical lands. There's a lot of development of a world there. The sloth is something they've played with before. It is an interesting character, and something they could potentially own a lot more than they currently do. So those things are really good. But mostly I think a lot of the PR is all a bit sort of hypey. At the end of the day, it's a bit of an ad. It's about a sloth. So they talk a lot about sort of trading sort of traditional category tropes. I'm like, no, this is what the category does. Nothing new here at all. You've got a character there. I think when I first saw this, I was sort of saying to you, you can lean into this sloth character in the way M&Ms over decades have built something, and you could be building something far greater and something that could manifest this brand proposition in all different ways. So if this is the beginning of those things, I think there's lots of popular things. But as far as what they're sort of talking about, which is sort of leaning into the double meaning of juice, giving you a bit more energy and vibe, and trying to move from just a morning drink into other occasions through the day. Share of mouth, share of throat, some beverage companies will talk about. This one being PepsiCo, no doubt. I don't see too much else that's happening as far as there's no change in the liquid, there's no change in the format, there's no change in distribution strategy here. If this is all we've got, you've got a pretty ad that in the wave of AI, and I don't know that AI, this looks like more traditional retail, special effects to me, but it's a good use of a distinctive asset. So lots of things I like there, but far from going to actually reposition this brand.
It's interesting because they have, so we'll get on to obviously the actual strategy and distribution and other bits of marketing mix to go around this, because I think that's interesting. But they have redesigned their packaging. But it's interesting when you go down that seems to be based on a different insight. It's all about straight from source, the straw straight into the fruit. The orange has become the eye on Tropicana and stuff like that. So that's kind of owning the fruits and the trueness of the ingredients and stuff like, which is kind of, I mean, it's a different, I mean, it connects, but it's different. It's a different direction to the kind of the above the line campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I would say traditional marketing thinking, I don't have too many things to point to. Like, they're all positive things that they're doing, not changing the packaging dramatically. They're building on the assets that are there. They're evolving the packaging, or the I should say the label.
Yep.
They're elevating something that's been in their legacy. So all those things are positive, but at the end of the day, that's just a brand refresh of the exact same positioning.
Exactly. So let's get on to this kind of, is this actually repositioning, or is this, advertising that's being overhyped? I mean, there's lots of talk about redefining categories, shifting into a different category, like you said, share of throat, share of mouth, but share of day is another thing that's kind of happened here, moving away from the kind of heuristic of a one-off morning beverage. But of course, juice equals energy beverage. It's not exactly a gap, a white space in the market, moving into a heavily competitive area. So, what do we, phrasing Roger Martin, what would have to be true for this to be a good idea?
All energy drinks are no longer available, and this is the only choice.
True, but I mean, let's talk about distribution, right? And again, as we often say here, this is a moment in time observation. So some of this stuff might be true. We don't know. We're not saying either way, but are they going to start appearing alongside this category that they're making noises about? Are we going to start seeing Tropicana next to energy drinks and so on and so forth?
Exactly. So if they were talking about sponsorships where they're going to be sponsoring more extreme athletes, or moving into some sort of subculture, sort of like breakdancing or something like that, you're going to lean into that double understanding of juice, right? If you wanted to pick an enemy, pick caffeine as an enemy, like a drink that gives you energy, but after 3 p.m., because you shouldn't be having these energy drinks that are going to disturb your sleep.
Or all kids, those things, energy drink for kids, kind of thing.
Absolutely, all those things lead into that. I think again, to be fair, to be critical on those, they are all us talking about orange juice, which there are health disadvantages of juice just itself when you're concentrating those things. But I would not put Tropicana or Minute Maid, which would be the two biggest in the US, as the shining example of juice. So, you're then championing the benefits of juice. And, the reality is it's not a good juice that's in that bottle. So you don't have like a nudie juice strategy or something which is like nothing but the fruit or just the benefits of those things. So, but let's say you're the worst of the best bunch. You're kind of basically saying all these energy drinks are actually promising all sorts of stuff that aren't good, and they're certainly not good for sleep. So I definitely think that there's opportunities for them to lean into juice through the day. That's not going to give you a crash, but I still think that's a proposition about juice of which they're not the reality, the best solution for.
And for me, it's missing a specificity in terms of, broadly we think the strategy is to get people consuming more juice, move it outside of the morning window. Yeah. They want to attach to the energy thing, right? So but you're going to attach to sporting moments, but that's not explicit. And I think, again, when we first saw this, one of the first things we talked about is like, I think Coca-Cola have obviously done some amazing things, but I think in terms of positioning, one of the most brilliant things they did was attach themselves agnostically to food moments. So that whole campaign they had of people debating whether thick crust or traditional pizza was better, or I don't know what type of curry was better. I can't remember the specifics, but it was all these debates around food, and the whole angle was no matter your position, it tastes better with Coke, and kind of stacking the habit of certain food rituals around being amplified by Coke. And I wonder whether there's an opportunity here to get specific around what
that's what this
specific moments.
That's what this work, again, snapshot in time, currently does nothing of. You could say top of funnel brand awareness, ticking some distinctive assets or building out a world, but that by itself won't reposition anything because it won't change behavior. You're just reminding me of the juice. And okay, it's not in the morning, but who's to say the sloth didn't just wake up and it is in the morning? So you're just reinforcing the same thing. If you want to truly move into those other categories and be about outside of breakfasts, of which, by the way, you've had decades drilling into people that OJ belongs in the morning. So you got to unpick all that stuff. And not that you're trying to say it doesn't belong in the morning, but it's like, when is that second juice occasion? And I like that sort of area around, like, well, actually, maybe it's in the afternoon when you don't want something that's going to jack you up.
Well, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because not only has orange juice become synonymous with the morning, but it's become synonymous stacked with caffeine. Coffee and orange juice is a classic morning combo. So it goes with the caffeine traditionally. Now it's kind of separating and trying to replace the caffeine. But I like that idea of the second moment, the second juice moment. But coming back, bringing it back to, we often say there's only one reason to reposition, right? And the reason to reposition is that the gap between what you are or what you're becoming as a brand or an organization and what the market sees you as has become commercially expensive. And of course, there's a number of different forces that can create that gap. Either the market shifted or someone or something else has come in and redefined market expectations, or you've shifted as an organization. Now, and if neither of those things are true, then repositioning is just posturing. Like it's in some ways pointless. So what we're seeing here is Tropicana haven't shifted. Like you said, it's still the same stuff in the same packaging, right? So they haven't actually changed what they're doing or what they're providing. So therefore, so what has shifted in the market? Are we saying that the perception of juice has changed? People have become more educated around the sugar content and stuff like that, therefore they need to move. Are we saying this is because of competition from the energy drink space? Because I think the assumption around what's caused the gap, if there is a gap at all, gives some objectivity as to whether the move is good or bad.
No, I mean, to me, this is just 101. That doesn't mean it won't work. This is ultimately invest in large campaign. When you rely so much on distributors, you basically say, we're spending this many millions, therefore give us more shelf space. So all this hype is so we can have a bit more shelf space in store. That more physical availability in the shelf results in sales. This could be anything.
Which shelf though, right? Because if they're shifting categories, again, we're repeating a point from
this
earlier.
This is just if this sees an uplift, which it will, because you're spending money and reminding people that there's this thing called Tropicana juice. But if Minute Maid spends similar, you won't see that much difference. It's just reinforcing those people who are buying to buy. Again, I don't think, based on what we're seeing, that there's going to be any sustained change.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw you the format point that I ambushed you with last week again. But what's your one sentence takeaway for any listeners to take away from today?
Oh, I love a good bit of music. So have a listen. I like that they're owning living room with the music track, but that's about the only thing I have positive to say.
So think audible assets.
Ooh, there you go. I should have said that.
All right. Have a good one. Cheers.